This is GARIS Masculist MGTOW flyers. That is 2 3-page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 59 entitled Feminist Globaciders. Description. This flyer lashes out at the third-wave feminist globaciders who are wiping out the world population by having made the divorce courts toxic to men, who subsequently boycott marriage and fatherhood, crashing the world population. Flyer itself. Feminist globaciders. It's a toss-up for me whether I have a greater hatred for the Jewish central banksters, whom I consider to be the greatest criminals against humanity in history, or the third-wave feminist globaciders. Both are monsters, but the former are more consciously evil, the latter more unconsciously, childishly evil, but both are wiping out the planet. Third-wave feminists are not the same category of women that I was debating in the early 80s on the national media in half a dozen European countries. These second-wave feminists I largely agreed with because they were reasonable and made reasonable demands. For example, equal pay for women, equal opportunities for access to the professions for women, a MARA, maternity rejection right, aka abortion right, etc. The liberal in me, despite being a male, agreed with these things. The third-wave feminists, on the other hand, are a completely different kettle of fish. For a start, they are a lot dumber because they are peakers, that is, people of average ability lying in the peak of the IQ bell curve, and not the sage, that is, intellectual, not the sage feminist, often with PhDs, leaders, I was debating with. Peakers are far less intelligent and knowledgeable than sages, that is, intellectuals, and are differently motivated. Third-wave feminists are basically gynocentrists. They want laws and customs that benefit women. They don't have the broad vision to see that their feminist demands are detrimental to men, and in time will, and have already, cause a massive backlash by men. The worst thing that these third-wave feminist peakers have done is to push the gender politicians to make the divorce courts toxic to men, forcing men to lose custody of their kids, losing their house, paying child support and alimony to their fluffy ex-wives. In the US, roughly one married father in 4 will be financially massacred by a divorce due to the toxicity of the divorce courts towards males. As a result of this widespread massive injustice, 70% of young men in the US under 35 refuse to marry and have kids because they refuse to be financially massacred by some fluffy parasite and have his life ruined. So thanks to the short-sighted selfishness of the third world feminists, the fluffy feminists who have had their feminist consciousness raised but not their masculist consciousness raised, the population is being wiped out. As fluffy feminism spreads to more and more countries, the same phenomenon is occurring in those countries as well, so that there is a real threat that the population of the whole world may get wiped out, that is, globicide, making these third world fluffy feminists feminist globaciders, that is, massively criminally irresponsible. These fluffy feminists have the horizons of mice. They don't seem to care about the longer term, broader consequences of their actions. They seem poorly informed about the man strike, that young men are boycotting marriage and fatherhood because of the toxicity of the divorce courts. I've always been struck by the small-mindedness of women. Even my own Chinese wife, who is supposedly a sage, that is, an intellectual, because she's a professor, cares more about prices in the supermarket than the state of the world. Women's horizons are so much narrower than men's. Men dominate the sage discussions on global politics, looking at the bigger picture. Women are more focused on themselves, their kids, cooking, food, clothes, shoes, etc. If you want proof of this, just have a look at women's magazines. For a male sage, the narrowness of interest of the female readers who actually enjoy such trivia is appalling. So, If women are incapable of seeing the bigger picture, that is, that the toxicity of the fluffy feminist-dominated divorce courts is causing a crash of the world population, then men will have to take control and block this feminist globacidal trend. MGTOWs and masculists, particularly the masculists, because they are far more politically minded than the passive MGTOWs, will have to raise the alarm to the world's politicians and tell them that fluffy feminist policies are causing globicide. Masculists and MGTOWs need to express their hatred of fluffy feminists in a far more widespread and open manner, making it clear to these fluffy feminist globaciders how hated they are, how massively criminally irresponsible and childish they are. To get this message out, to make society, women and fluffy feminists conscious of this globicide, it's useful to have a label that can be used when pointing the accusative finger at fluffy feminists. I chose the label Feminist Globaciders. When men are expressing their anger and hatred against fluffy feminists, they can hurl the term globaciding feminists at them. This will shock the feminists. They are so used to dominating the gender debate, that is, the discussion of gender roles, that they will be blown away when really angry, hateful masculists hurl verbal venom at them, claiming that they are wiping out the world population, which indirectly, due to their criminally irresponsible, small-minded selfishness, is true. They have to be stopped. So I suggest a strategy for the masculists and the few politically minded MGTOWs that they use the label of Feminist Globaciders to hurl at the fluffy feminists and at society, the journalists, the gender politicians, etc., to wake them up that the world population will be wiped out unless the gender laws are made men fair, concerning divorce, concerning the paternity rejection rate, etc. The current man strike of young men refusing to marry and be fathers cannot continue. Otherwise, humanity will cease to exist. What is more important to human beings than the survival of human beings? Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de GARIS. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. YouTube channel name de GARIS Masculist MGTOW Flyers. Ciao.